I'm Jamie Seeker, and this is What It Takes. Each episode, I sit down with real business owners to talk about their journey, the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. Let's dive in. Hello there, and welcome to another episode of What It Takes. Today, we're diving into a truly inspiring entrepreneurial journey that shows how big dreams and hard work can lead to incredible success. Our guest is Adam Povlitz, the CEO and president of Anago Cleaning Systems, a global commercial cleaning franchise that's making waves around the world. But Adam's story didn't start at the top. He began his career at IBM, navigating the corporate world before stepping into the family business and ultimately transforming it into the international powerhouse that it is today. We'll be talking about what it takes to make the leap from corporate life to running a thriving franchise empire, the lessons that he's learned on that journey, and how he's built a legacy through leadership and innovation. You're not going to want to miss this one, so let's get started. Adam, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, and I think I owe you like $20 for all the nice things you said.
Oh, yes, my pleasure. My pleasure. I can't wait to kind of unpack that and hear about that. So let's just start from the beginning. Tell us about your early career at IBM. What did you learn there? What helped shape your approach to business and like leadership and things like that?
Yeah, so coming right out of school, I ended up getting recruited to move up to. I'm originally from Michigan, moved to South Florida, got recruited up to work in New York, and you go. I'm working at a Fortune 100 company, and I'm in New York City. I mean, how do you turn it down, right? And it was an interesting time. I got hired in '08, and they were actually doing. Oh, sorry, it was '08, and they were right when they were doing this huge hiring boom. I was a financial analyst there. It was this crazy title. It was like North America Sales and Distribution, Other Income and Distributions, Growth Plays Analyst. That was my title. I don't even know. It was just acronyms. They just give you letters on your business card. They didn't actually write the title out. And great company. I mean, I don't have any complaints about them. But I think it was valuable, and I think the most valuable thing I learned was just how to think like a big company thinks. I think if I would have gone directly to work for the proverbial family business, right? Then all you really know is what you learned in college, and then whatever your parents tell you about business. Whereas going somewhere else and seeing how I was in finance, so seeing how a Fortune 100 company manages finances, does its budgeting and forecasts. Some of that stuff I still do today, and it's from what I learned back then. It was 2000, shortly after 2008, it was 2009, and we all know what happened that year. It was an ugly year, and there was actually a round of layoffs that they did. I wasn't laid off. I was one of the analysts reviewing I had no employee names, I had employee numbers and salary packages, and I was tasked with reviewing who was getting basically the golden parachutes and the not so golden parachutes and the not parachutes. Um, as a young person with this being your first real job out of school, I did something small before that, but it definitely changes your perspective of corporate America, and you go like, wow, I could have easily been on the other side of that table. And so I think I mentally kind of was just like checking out. I happened to be down for the holidays, and my dad says, he goes, I never want to be in the family business, but he goes, oh man, I think I got the tiger by the tail. You gotta come check out this Anago thing. And it was about 6 months later that I ended up moving down to and starting at Anago.
That was actually going to be my next question is how did you go from that to Anago? That seems like quite a big leap, but I love the lesson that you learned there in learn to think like a big business thinks. That's invaluable. That's amazing. So once you did, and then you moved over to Anago, transitioning from corporate to family business, I can't even imagine the adjustment. I'm sure it was probably fun to say the least. So what was that like for you? How did you find your footing once you got there?
Yeah. So my dad actually was very smart about it, and he said, "Listen, I don't want this to be, some kind of silver spoon, or you come in as the founder's son." And so he goes, "Congratulations, you've left your." He used the word highfalutin. I don't think anybody uses that word anymore, but he's an older guy. So your highfalutin finance job, and your first job at Anago, I was a telemarketer by day and a janitorial franchisee's assistant at night cleaning a daycare.
I was
Um,
gonna say, yeah, did
yeah.
he make you clean? Because
Oh, yeah.
that's huge. I love that actually. What are your thoughts on doing that? Doing it that way?
So, I mean, in the moment, I was cleaning a daycare after working a 40-hour job. So I was probably working 60 hours. I mean, it was madness. In hindsight, I mean, it was obviously completely invaluable in that, to know how most of the, unit franchisees are living their lives where they're, most of the work is done at night. Most commercial cleaning, office cleaning is done after hours. You see how labor intensive it is. It gives you an insight even in when you're trying to price out jobs as you advance through your career and you go, okay, no, I did that and I know how that's going to take 2 hours or whatever it is. Extremely valuable. Cause I mean, I started cleaning, then I did customer service, then I did sales. And that was in one of the local franchise offices before I ever even moved to the corporate office. So I've done every role in a franchise office. Then they moved me to the corporate office. And my job basically was like, I'm probably late 20s at this point, and my job was travel the country. They call it like a franchise developer, but it basically just meant travel the country, meet with the what we call master franchisees, which I can get into kind of the breakdown of the different level with you later. Um, but meet with them and see what you can do to help them grow their business. And so you go, okay, what do I know? Well, I know how to clean. I know how to sell a little bit. I have a background in finance. And so most of the time you go in with like a total servant leadership approach of like, what can we do to help your business grow? Um, and you do that, I think it's probably 20 something franchises at the time. You do that 20 times and you get a real insight and robust view of what the business looks like, what the industry looks like, and then you can kind of start applying that and making some decisions.
That's that's awesome actually. Was it your dad that was driving that, you doing it that way, or do you feel like you kind of stepped in and were like, "Oh, here's what I want to do"?
I mean, a little bit of both. He was driving it only in that my dad was a pure serial entrepreneur. Like it's in his DNA, probably more than mine. I was lucky enough to have some footsteps to follow, but uh, quite frankly, I mean, he was always focusing on like how do we get more franchises sold, and there was very little operational and kind of customer service focus on the existing franchisees. And so, I mean, my first few markets I went to, it was like, nobody's been here in 5 years. Like, here's my laundry list of problems. And you go like, okay, well, glad I made it. I'm happy to help. And you do that a few times. And then you kind of go in and you almost have to diffuse the situation. You go, hey, listen, I know we're not happy with this part of the CRM. I know this part of the whatever process needs improvement. Hey, I know we need to focus on lowering costs on X, Y, and Z. How else can I help you? And they're like, that usually it's like that's it. That's what we wanted.
That's
And so,
great.
so you get the first few, you definitely get baptized by fire, you know what I mean? But then after that, you kind of know what you're looking at. And that's what turns into. And so then it turned in where now the franchisees were looking at me as the guy that got things done. It was okay, if we talk to Adam, we know that, we're going to get the changes that we need to improve and grow our businesses.
Well, that's a really great approach to customer service, just in general, is coming with, what their problems are and asking about that as if without even coming with the solution, you're just kinda like, "Okay, so these are your problems," and, like, listing them out, like, they already felt heard before even saying a word, so that's a huge approach, but I bet it's still a far leap to go from just servicing, your existing franchisees and growing that to then taking that all the way to an international franchise. How do you go from one to the next?
That's the that's probably like a 5 or 6 year story.
I bet.
Part of it is you have to be ready when the door knocks, or someone knocks at the door. And so in franchise sales, a lot of times with at least how our brand works and how the master franchise model works, we work with franchise brokers. We do obviously website advertising and portal advertising and stuff like that. And so sometimes you'll just get a lead from a place where you're going, I don't know if I was gonna go there, but I guess, let me talk to this person and see if it's worth our while. And so it's put us in like interesting places, where we opened Hawaii before we opened New York. We opened, Tulsa, Oklahoma before I went to LA. You know what I mean? So you get some odd ones in there. And honestly, our first Canadian franchise came to us. Um, it was through a broker network, and we said, okay, let's talk about it. And we said we've never gone there. Here is kind of we reached out to an attorney, who've referred us to another attorney, and and everybody gets a cut somehow. So that was expensive, but lesson learned. But you go, okay, here are the documents you need, here is the legal stuff you need, and then once you have that infrastructure built out for another country, you start going, okay, wait a minute. I if I already have that cost and that's a sunk cost, how else can I build out in that country? And then you start looking at other countries and go, okay, the process is probably kind of close, and you just kind of it's almost like it's I would call it like tangential learning. You just learn something just adjacent to what you know, and then you go, okay, now there's something just adjacent to that and just adjacent to that, and it just kind of mushrooms out from there.
There's so many tidbits in there that I'm learning from, picking up, and the first is that you've gotta be found by people who are looking for you. Right? Like, that's what marketing's all about, and hopefully people are able to do that, but you broke into some of these markets simply because people in those markets found you and they were looking for you. So that's a huge growth step. So that's one, and then the other piece is, just expanding on your knowledge, like that adjacent. I like that a little bit. Like, if you already are very familiar with one area, one country, one market, whatever it is, look to similar markets, similar things that have wouldn't be too big of a stretch to shift or grow in that area. It's almost like an extension of what you're already doing instead of starting a whole new thing, all over again, and just kind of making that sunk cost, give you a return, right? How can I capitalize on something I've already paid for? Let's just grow it there. So those are really great insights into that. But also the cleaning industry specifically is highly competitive, right? So how have you and Anago stayed ahead of that curve?
So yeah, no, there's a lot of us in there, and the barriers to entry are extremely low, right? In the franchise world, we call it chucking a truck. I mean, literally, anybody can kind of get into the business if you have
Oh,
some basic tools, right? I mean, it's not that hard to clean, frankly, right? There's best
no.
practices, there's better chemicals to use, there's better equipment to use, but cleaning's cleaning. So two thoughts. Number one, the way our model kind of breaks apart how the cleaning business works has been advantageous. And then I'll get into the next thing is our investment in technology and why we did a different way of technology than I think you would think. So number one, our model is called it's a three-tier franchise model. So most franchise models that your listeners are familiar with are probably going to be two-tier franchise models. So like McDonald's, and then the people who own the McDonald's restaurants. Like there's the corporate and the restaurant owners, two tiers. Ours has three tiers. So there's the corporate offices, the what we call a master franchise, and then what we call a unit franchise. So the easiest way to think about it is actually flip it the other way. And so a unit franchise is probably what most people think of when I say commercial cleaning. You think of the person with the mop and the bucket or the vacuum or whatever it may be. And they own and manage a cleaning business. They hire a crew, learn the chemicals and equipment, keep the buildings clean, keep the customers happy. But the question is, well, where did they get that client from in the first place? Who sold it? Where did they advertise to get it? And you find out that cleaning turns into this 24/7 industry if you're going to go it alone. It's okay, so wait a minute. You wake up in the morning and you got to spend money on a website, you got to advertise, you got to hire salespeople, you got to figure out a way to get appointments, whether that's email marketing, knocking on doors, phone calls, whatever it is. Then you got to deliver a proposal. Then you got to follow up and make sure you close it. And now that it's closed, well, who the heck's going to clean it? Well, if you own the business, it's you. And so it turns into this, 24/7 nightmare. And so we go, wait a minute, really, it's two businesses. If you think about it, you can kind of think of it as like the day job and the night job. And if you go, wait a minute, the day job is very much like the white collar of the blue collar industry of cleaning. It's website management, sales team management, customer service, and then like billing and collections. Anyway, it's sales and administration is all it is. And then the cleaning side of it is what it is. It's cleaning. And so what our model did is we said, wait a minute, we're going to have some what we call a master franchise. And that's like a regional territory owner. So I happen to be in South Florida. The South Florida territory is Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. Um, and within that territory, the master franchise has the sales team. They're constantly focused on getting new accounts for the franchisees at the unit level. And then once they've sold it, they use one of the unit franchisees that they've sold to have the building serviced. So what's cool is like the master franchisee has zero staff that does any cleaning whatsoever. And the unit franchisee has zero staff that does any sales or marketing whatsoever. So you get this synergy where everyone's saving money and focusing on one aspect of the business rather than trying to do all of it.
That's actually the coolest breakdown of any business for any business owner. That whole cycle of this is actually your job if you're doing this. So if you're actually working in your business, it doesn't matter what it is. You're an attorney, you're an architect, you're a dentist, whatever it is, you're doing this during the day, but all these other things need to happen in your business in order for you to stay a business, right? And so you can take cleaning out of that and replace it with any business owner, and anyone listening today is like, "Oh yeah, that's absolutely what I have to do." But you've managed to find a way. So that absolutely answered my question, is staying ahead of the curve and the competition and this saturated industry, where I literally just got an email today that I deleted that was like, "Hey, is Secret Solution looking for cleaning services?" And I'm like, "Oh, delete," you know? So I get those all the time. They'll make comments on our websites. I'll get phone calls, so there's so much competition out there, and that could be for anything. We happen to be talking about cleaning, but if you're a business owner, you're competing with other people who are just as hungry, who can do what you do, but they may have another team doing it. So it's those that are able to establish that, like you called white collar job duties for your business, and distinguish that from the actual like service or product that you're offering, right? That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like if I said, Jamie, you're a phenomenal cook. You should start a restaurant. We've all heard that joke before. Oh, someone's such a great cook. They should start a restaurant. But then you go, okay, maybe you are a good cook. But then you go, what is the? Yeah, me either. Me either. But maybe you are a good cook, and you go, okay, yeah, I should start a restaurant. Okay, well, what do you know about? Negotiating a lease and marketing setting up a website to market it and a social media presence. And now you got to figure out recruiting, inventory, spoilage, turnover. And it's like, whoa, suddenly, owning a restaurant is way different from being a cook. And so we're able to find people who are the functional entrepreneurs where they have an entrepreneurial spirit and want to do the functional aspect of the business. And then you have the administrative entrepreneurs where they're focused on the administrative side of the same business. And they probably don't know anything much about cleaning other than, well, in our model, they do. We make them, because I went through the cleaning process, we make them learn a little
Sure.
bit too.
But you don't have to, is your point, and I think that's the takeaway. And I actually had that moment in my journey as well, when I was, actually working for, a doctor who she owned an OBGYN office, and I was managing that office and, running operations for that. And I was trying to figure out, how to kind of implement an initiative that we needed to do, and was saying, "You're the owner. What are your thoughts on this, and what direction do you want me to take on it?" And she just kind of sat there and said, "Look, I would never ask you to come into my surgery and give me advice. And I took 0 business courses. To become a doctor, I have to take years of school. 0 of them had anything to do with business. So I will never come into your office and tell you what you should be doing. And that was the most like life-giving, empowering thing for me as a decision maker and as an operator. Also helped me to distinguish between the jobs functions and actual duties and separate that from there is this professional service that we're offering. There's also a professional job that I'm doing that is different from that, that is also equally valuable to this business success. And she saw that, and I was able to see that too. So it's essentially
Very
what it is
cool.
that you're saying. And I mean, I'm glad that I learned that along the way. And it sounds like it's benefited you from learning that along the way. So I do think that this is something that anyone can take with them and say, these actually need to be paid attention to and managed just
Yeah.
as, important. So what does before we get to our last question, you did kind of mention technology. So what does innovation play in the growth and success of Anago? I don't know that you necessarily like articulated on that technology side.
So when I say, cleaning and technology, it almost sounds, like an oxymoron. Like, did he just say jumbo shrimp? Or, it does like what? Like you think of cleaning technology and it sounds like, do they have a better mop? Do they have is there chemicals that are better or something like that? And like, yes and no. Like, but everything that I have that you probably aren't going to get at the grocery store, we have commercial grade stuff, but all my competitors can get that as well. So we realize we're not going to win the technology game in the operational side. Um, but what we did realize is we could win it on the customer service side. And so I have to kind of give you a little background. So in most industries, you can have 3 levels of experience. You can have a delight experience, right? You go to the great restaurant again and great service, great food, it's amazing. You have a terrible experience, right? Waiters are jerk, food is cold, waits are long, or you kind of have this middle of the road, like, like it was fine experience. In commercial cleaning, you have 2, you don't have 3. Either you get to the office, right? Nobody comes to the office and goes, "Oh my gosh, this place is so clean. I'm gonna get my janitor a birthday present." Doesn't happen, right? So you either get to your office, and you go, "Wow, I guess I gotta work." You don't think about the cleaning whatsoever. Or you get to the office and go, "Wow, why is that trash can still full? Why are there smudges all over my desk still? Why is the bathroom smell bad?" Whatever it is. And you're either completely agnostic to it or you're unhappy. And as everyone probably knows, the best time to make a friend in any business is when a mistake is made and you can resolve it. That's like, what was that? That Zappos.com. I think I read his book years ago. And it's weird because he got like corrupt or something, I think was the deal. But like his book was brilliant about how Zappos.com does their customer service where everything's above and beyond. And you realize that like, okay, this is my opportunity to make a friend. So we said, okay, what are the weaknesses of our competitors when something does inevitably go wrong, right? Pros of the model is you're not going to export, cleaning to China. Amazon's not coming to town to replace your cleaning business. Cons of the model is because it has a human element in every level of it. Humans aren't perfect and we make mistakes. You almost have to bank on an inevitability of a certain level of mistakes occurring. And so what we said is, okay, mistakes are going to be made. And so we created a software that's proprietary to us. It's called CleanCom, because we're not original with names. It just means clean communication. And the idea is, so if you have that issue at your office where something's not clean to your satisfaction, you take out your phone. It's a private messaging app, so you're not exchanging cell phones or anything like that. You take a picture of whatever the area is that's a problem. You enter what room it's in, and then you send your message. It has built-in Google Translate so that if the language you speak isn't the language that the franchise that's cleaning your building speaks, it'll translate it and everyone can speak in their native languages. They actually have a built-in, it's a 2-hour response guarantee. So you are guaranteed to get a response within 2 hours of issuing your complaint. And then just to juice it up, we have built-in analytics on the back end so that if, say, one franchisee gets 3 complaints about having issues with the restroom, it allows that master franchisee to bring them back in and says, "Hey, this guy's had 3 complaints on restrooms. You should bring him back in for a retraining to make sure it doesn't become a bigger problem and we can nip this in the bud." And so that's where we've invested. We said it's all about communication and moving fast to fix any mistakes we make.
That's actually very innovative. I'm really glad we stopped to kind of hear about that because I would have loved to have that in some of the offices, especially the doctor's office that I spoke about. And you're so right. I never when I came in and went about my day, I never thought about the cleaning. But when I had to think about the cleaning, it was absolutely a problem, and not because I'm thinking about, I don't acknowledge hard work or things like that. You just don't really think about your environment until you have to, and then you realize like, "Hey, I can't," we're a doctor's office. We can't we can't be having these things, in here. So, yeah, that's actually really great. Well, I have actually gotten a lot from this conversation, but the one last question that I always ask all of our guests, since our podcast is called What It Takes, if you could go back and give one piece of advice about what it takes to your younger self, what would that be?
Ah, that's a good one. So, one of the things that I've learned, I would say I probably learned this just in the last few years even, is when you're young and you're getting into business and you start seeing some success, right? You start doing it your way and you see some success, and then maybe you get a promotion or you get more responsibility and you see some success and you keep doing it your way. You get to a point in management where you're high enough where you want everything to be done your way, but then there's this like tipping point where all of a sudden you have to realize like in order to get the amount of stuff done that you want to get done, you have to let go of it. And for me, I'm admittedly like a recovering micromanager. I'm someone who I've found success doing it my way. And now, after being CEO for, gosh, for since 2015, I've really been forcing myself to say, wait a minute. There's only so many hours in a day, and my dreams keep getting bigger. My wife laughs every time I hire. We've been on a hiring spree. I've hired probably about a dozen people just in the last 18 months, 19 months of like senior level positions. And she goes, every time you hire these people, you're supposed to let them help you, and what you end up doing is just coming up with an even bigger dream or goal or whatever. And so my lesson that I wish I would have learned earlier was hire the smart people, give them like cast the vision of tell them exactly what you want to do and where you want to go, and let them do their thing. Just that's what's the point, is hiring them so that they can do the job, not you trying to do every little aspect of the job.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's definitely something that I wish we could learn earlier on. It would save us from a whole lot because you're right. We do have entrepreneurs have certain personality types and great instincts and good skill sets. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here still, right? It takes a lot of grit to kind of get through. And I think it can be one of our downfalls is that when we've had success and we've done things well and we've been right about some of these, risks that we've taken or decisions that we've made, sometimes it can cloud our judgment when it comes to having it to be this way. And if we can shift our focus to the deliverable and the result instead of the
Right.
process in which we get there, we would just save ourselves a whole lot of time and effort and stress, I think. Because
Yeah.
we'll find that other leaders and other people that have different strengths bring that to the table too. And it does look different and it feels uncomfortable for us, but we can learn so much from them. And we may never do it their way. That's okay, but it does bring something different to our own company structure or the way that we do things that we never would have gotten to before had we not relied on them to do that. So,
Exactly.
wow, what an incredible conversation with Adam, his journey from corporate to CEO and his dedication to building a global franchise empire. It's such a great reminder of what's possible with vision, determination, and a willingness to embrace challenges. So, if you're feeling inspired and want to learn more about Adam, or even Anago cleaning systems, right? Where can people find you if they're looking for you?
So yeah, we're anagocleaning.com. That's ANAGO cleaning.com. And then we're also all over social media. So it's at Anago Cleaning. Facebook, Instagram, X. I'm never going to call it X. It's hard for me to think of that. X, LinkedIn. And then I'm also a pretty avid user of LinkedIn. So I'm active on LinkedIn. So if you type in Adam Povlitz, you'll find me, and shoot me a message. I'll be sure to respond.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we'll also put it in the show notes as well. So we'll link it there. And as always, thank you for tuning in to What It Takes. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little entrepreneurial inspiration today, because this episode sure has some of that in it. So until next week, when we speak to Natalie Griffin from Jerry's Cafe, keep pushing forward, keep learning, and keep doing what it takes. We'll see you then. Would you or someone you know like to be featured on this podcast? Our applications are now open. Apply today at seekersolution.com and click on the podcast link to get started.